Well, g'day folks, welcome to another episode of Learn to Paint TV. Rod Moore here with you again from the Learn to Paint Academy. In this week we're going to do a really nice little landscape scene from a photo that I took, and I think you'll enjoy this subject. There's a few different layers to it which makes it an interesting subject. Let's have a look at our photo here. So off in the distance you can see those beautiful bluey grey mountains which really set the depth and the atmosphere in the painting. This is part of the Kapiti Valley mountain range. And then you've got some sort of distance and middle distance fields and farms and so on. Little scattered lines of trees and things. And then there's this foreground hill, and just over the hill there's a little cluster of trees, and you've got the main tree casting a lovely shadow. So as always, we're going to follow the Moore method of painting, the 3 steps. Step number 1 is our drawing. Going to start off with just a tiny little brush here, and we'll get our drawing underway. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of water. We'll get some of the blue paint, the French ultramarine blue, a little bit of that alizarin crimson. We'll just mix up a little dark. The horizon line runs roughly through around about there. Now you don't want this paint too thick for this drawing step. So I just got a little bit more water in there. Yeah, it runs roughly through there, and our foreground hill, run quite that steep. It's running around about through there. Okay, now let's just have another look at the photo to get that main tree. So that main tree, you can see that comes out of the picture a bit, and it's casting a shadow right about there. So you can see what I've done there. I've just put the little bit of that foliage there, and we've got that shadow around about here, so we know roughly where that's going to go, somewhere like that. So that's one of our main big shapes, although there's a lot of air coming through that shape, so the foliage is mostly up in the sky there, so you just need to be mindful of that. Next big shape to get in is going to be the distant mountains. So those distant mountains, there's one that runs kind of about there, runs up around about there, and then there's one that's further off, and then we've got one that, well, maybe around about there, it comes down to about there, and it runs in through the tree there. Okay, well, the tree blocks it is what I mean, branches and things. Okay, so that's that, and then on this hillside here, we've got another cluster, a little bit of it breaking out there, of foliage. So this is like a secondary little run of trees around about there. So for our blocking, I'm now going to move to a larger brush. It's a bristle hair brush, that size there. And we're going to work darks. So our darkest darks will be in this tree and shadow. Then this little cluster of trees here. Then we've got a row of little dark trees in the back. And then we've got our bluey grey tones for here. Okay, and then we've got our, we'll work out our sky from there. So I'm going to mix up a dark. I'm going to take a little touch of the walnut oil. Now I'm just experimenting with the walnut oil. You don't need it. You could do this all in water as a medium. So I'm using water mixable oils. However, exactly the same process for the acrylics, right? So if you're doing it in acrylics, just follow exactly the same process. And we want to create clusters, okay? And we want plenty of breathing room through there so that sky and those distant mountains and so on will come through. And in this section in here, it's really just going to be tree trunks, so don't put too much foliage down low there. What we can do is just take a little bit more blue into that mix. Okay, so what that does is cools it down a little bit, and we can take tiniest little pinhead of white. See how much white I got there? Okay, not very much. And I'm just going to pop that to one side and just get a little bit of the white in there. Okay, maybe just a touch more. Okay, and you can see that that's just lightened it off ever so slightly. And if I just pop that in now, this is a really subtle little value shift that I've gone for here. Okay. Now, create some interesting shapes into that tree. And look, it's very, very subtle against that warmer background. You may not even be picking it up on the camera. I can see it. You can see it on the palette here. But this is our slightly cooler and lighter value, and that's our previous mix there. Okay. But it may not be translating on the board here to the camera, which is, just have to trust me that that's what's going on here. Okay, so there are bluey grey, there's a lot of atmosphere there. So we want to represent that utilizing the right value and the right saturation, the right temperature. Let's test. Up on the board. Yeah, it's not quite right. It's not quite blue enough. Get a bit more of that blue into there. It's probably also not quite light enough, so I'll get a bit more white. That's better. So I'll just run that. Still probably not light enough. Get a little touch more of the white in there. We want there to be a decent step back. That's it. I think that's it there. And by adding white, of course, it will cool the temperature of that tone. Just work that in. Now we're doing a very simple beginner type of approach here today. Anyone can do this, so don't be afraid to have a go. The way to learn to paint is just to get your brushes out. This foliage was almost dry because I used just a little touch of water. By the time I've actually got to this step, I used very thin paint. I didn't use thick paint in there. And this is a mistake a lot of people make with oils when they're starting out. They put their first layers down too thick. Then they have to wait a week before they can work back onto it. It's not what we do here at the Learn to Paint Academy, of course. We paint our first layers thin and we work thick layers, increasingly thicker layers over the top of that. Add a fair bit more white into that. See that there? And then I'll come in and do this more distant one. So we definitely want a bigger jump back to this one. This one's a fair bit further off. A lot of atmosphere between us. And this one. So we want to make sure we can definitely see the difference. I think we can. I think from this middle distance bush here to the distant mountain and then to the furthest one, you can definitely see that there's a shift there. Now I need the little pinhead of the red in there to grey that tone, because I'm going to do way off in the distance here. It needs to be greyed off. It can't be fully saturated, out of the tube saturated. And it also needs to be a lot lighter in value than what I've mixed up there. So now we have white and we see what we've got, right? And that doesn't quite look pleasing enough, I don't think. It needs to be yellower, that green. So we mix more yellow in, a little pinhead more red, the mixes that you make. Okay, and I'm happy with that now. I think that's going to work for us. So I'm just popping in the field in the distance. And if we need to highlight it or put some shadow in there somewhere, we can do that in the next step, okay? But for now, we're just blocking in. So this step 2 is all about just getting a good block in, the right values, the right color. And in the process, creating pleasant looking shapes. Still a little bit on the green side. We'll adjust that when we put a little bit of highlight over it, and we'll make it slightly warmer or slightly drier looking. Okay, so we're going to take some red, take some yellow ochre, take some white, same colours, same 3 colours. We've only used 3 colours here. I can get away with not fully clean the brush. Okay, so I'm making up a little reddy orange tone here. I'm going to take some walnut oil just to thin it down. Okay, you could use water. If you're using acrylics, just use water. Okay, and what we're going to do is make this foreground hill that this tree is sitting on. I'm going to make that just a much warmer, focal-y type point of the painting. Okay, so we just run it up. Now this little cluster of trees is just over the edge of this foreground hill. So therefore we're going to run up a line like that, and we'll flick some grasses and things up over that shadow. Okay. Now keep in mind this is our blocking. We're putting in a warm earth tone for our blocking, and we'll put grassier colours over the top of that, and you watch and see. Greeny grasses over the top will really harmonise with this. Okay, so I'll leave some of that hot pink coming through there as well. Okay, and what we're going to do with the sky is we're going to make it mostly blue, but I'll put some low-lying cloud activity just through this section in here. So mostly blue to start off. We will take a chunk of that white. Okay, take a chunk of that blue. Take some walnut oil. Mix that together. Now you can see that that's quite a dark tone. We don't want it that dark. That means we need another chunk of that white. And that's probably closer to the truth there. Okay. Okay, let's scrub that in. And what I'll do, I'll just take a medium-sized brush now. Exactly the same brush, just a slightly smaller one. I'm going to take some white. And where I've got this dark over here, I'm just going to give myself a little bit of a dark tone, but a light value, like so. So I need a bit more white in there. Okay. It's going to form the shadow side of our cloud. We're not going to have a lot of it, but just to get a slightly darker shadowy tone in there for the clouds. Okay. They're usually, flat underneath, like so. And what I'll do is I'll just now add some more white into that mix. Okay, just there. Need to get a fair bit of white in there now. Okay. So you can see I didn't clean the brush, so it's not pure white. It's just a much lighter grey than what we had. And I'll just use that to a little bit on the greeny side. That's okay. Okay, we just work that in. So I don't really want to come back and do anything really to those clouds later on. What I'll do when it all dries back a bit and it settles down, we'll just soften in some edges and so on. But we're going to keep the sky and the clouds fairly loose. There you go, folks. So we're making really good progress. We've done step 1, which are our drawing, step 2, our blocking. I think it's coming along quite nicely. We're on track. You can see there's my printout of the photo there. We're going along quite nicely. We'll probably need to tone those distant mountains back a bit, but then, it'll all come together, I think, just on track the way we want it to be. So we're now going to do step 3 of the Moore method of painting, which is, of course, our details. We're going to look at our finishing touches and highlights, that type of thing, just to really bring this painting together. Now, I think we're pretty well on track with how we're going here at the moment. And we've given it a good couple of hours to settle down and just to start to dry off a little bit. Thicker paint than what we used in the blocking stage. Okay, now that's a little bit too saturated, even though it's a light blue. So I just need a little touch more of the red and the yellow in there, just to. Oh, that's a bit much red. Let's see how that goes. So you can see it's gone to the red side, so we'll add a little bit more yellow in there to neutralize the red. And that might be okay. I'm not sure if it's light enough, but let's come up here and test. Yeah, you can see it's quite a bit lighter than what's there currently, but it's probably too light. I'll just add a bit more blue back into that. Let's just see how that looks. Yeah, you can see it's still fairly light by comparison to what's already there, but I think we'll just pop that in, because there's three sort of little mountains there, and this one is furthest away. It's tucked in behind the other two. So just with that lighter tone there, we'll be able to create that separation. Dry clean brush. Let's just have a look at these clouds here now. I want to make sure that these clouds just softened off a little. Okay. Just soften in some of that sky into the top of those clouds. It's going to be a dark green. It's going to be mostly in shadow. So we get our ultramarine blue and our alizarin crimson. Sorry, our yellow ochre. Like so, there's a fairly dark green there, which we can use as a mid-tone. So I'll just light up the tip of that brush. We'll come over here and we'll just start to introduce that in over the shadow, without painting out all that shadow, of course. Shadow is pretty important to what we're doing. I've just added a little bit of extra yellow ochre into there as well. So that we can just start to work it into the top of this tree here. That little bit of cadmium yellow there, we'll just punch it up a little, just for on the outsides. Okay, so we just want to get a dull green sort of mix that we can just add a little touch of green to those trees out the back there, without them really coming forward at all. Very good. Now, let us take our brush that we used for the drawing before, the small one, and just mix up a dark blue and the red, and mix it into that greeny tone there. Okay, I'll get a little touch of the walnut oil for this, just to get that paint a little bit looser. And I'm not going to try and get it exactly the same as what I see on the, so I'm going to do these tree trunks, but you know, don't agonise over getting them exactly the same. Is get them roughly representing what you see there. Just using that little bit of walnut oil to thin this paint down just makes it flow a little bit better, because I've already got obviously wet paint there, and it would be a lot more difficult to put these branches over wet paint if it wasn't for the use of that walnut oil. Okay, looking good. We'll go back to our medium brush now. Just want to address this grass field out here. At the moment it's all one sort of tone. It's a bit flat and dull looking. So let's just get a mix of green with maybe a little bit more yellow, ochre and red into it. A touch of that white. And let's just see if we can't just run that in here and there, not everywhere, but certainly here and there. Painted over my tree a little bit there, but not to worry. Okay, so that's a pretty murky looking green. Let's just see how we go with this. Now that underpaint is quite wet in there, so I need to just be careful as I apply the paint. But see, I can just flick up some a little bit of grass along that shadow line there. So in hindsight, I probably painted that underpaint a little bit too thick because it hasn't really tacked off. It's still very wet in there. So I need to paint this with some paper towels so that each mark I make, I pull out the paint that I pick up. So really warming it up there now. It doesn't need to be much warmer than the field out the back, but just enough to give it that foreground feel to it, you know, so we know that it's definitely in the foreground here. And I'm just going to use a variety of different strokes, some vertical, some horizontal. As you can see, this is coming together as a nice little painting, little landscape painting. Very easy to do. Anyone who just follows these simple steps could quite easily recreate this painting. Use the walnut oil or water. Mix up a dark. Now just finish off getting this getting these little branches and things in. This one's got a fence post that's running that way. I don't know that I'll put more than just that little bit of it in there. So I'll take this cadmium yellow, even though it's a little bit dirtied up now, and I'll just run it through here. All right, well, I think we're pretty well done with this one. Let's just come and have a look, closer look there. As you can see, it's a little interpretation, and I wanted to keep this one as a simple little landscape that anyone could do, which I think we've achieved that. I mean, the photo, when we have a look at the photo, it seems a lot more complicated. There's a lot of information in the photo, so what I've tried to do is just simplify that right down and just get a very simple interpretation of it and make it so that anybody could do it. And I think we've achieved that here today. Simple little painting, simple little landscape, one that anyone can have a go at. So make sure you do have a go at it. And I think you'll surprise yourself when you do. Just follow the 3 steps of the Moore method. There's step 1, our drawing, step 2, the blocking process, where you establish the values, and step 3, you saw me detail it up and add on highlights and midtones and things like that. Very few details. I mean, a little bit of detail work in the tree trunks and so on, but apart from that, very few details. So we've kept it really simple for you, and you can do this. So have a go at it at home and have fun with it. And most important thing is the process and understanding the process of developing a painting, because when you get the process down, it means that you can pretty much get your own photos and create paintings of anything that you can take a photo of, basically. So hope you've enjoyed this. I've certainly enjoyed it. Make sure you check out our website underneath, www.learntopaintacademy. Go there and register for our free course if you haven't done so already. And in the free course, I take you into more detail about the Moore method of painting. And there's 4 different painting demonstrations there, just like this one. So you can go and check that out and enjoy that. So go to the website there, learntopaint.academy. See you there. And I'll see you next week in Learn to Paint TV. Cheers for now.